ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ. ಸ್ಫೂರ್ತಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಶನಿವಾರ 5 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಸ್ಫೂರ್ತಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶೇಷ ಅತಿಥಿ ಕೂಡ ಯಾರು ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಆಕೆ ಯಂಗ್ ಅಚೀವರ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಪ್ಯಾಷನೇಟ್ ಸಿಂಗರ್ ಕೂಡ. ಅವರ ಸಿಂಗಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆರಿಯರ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅವ್ರ ಕರಿಯರ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ರೂಪಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ಅಂತ ಇವತ್ತು ಅವರೊಂದಿಗೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಪೂರ್ವ ಲೈವ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Hi Rekha, sorry, I think there was some problem with the broadcast. It kept saying it got interrupted, but thank you for having me.
That's okay. Due to overusage of internet, so we are facing.
I think so. What I'm going to try off my Wi-Fi so that there are no issues. Can you hear me?
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's get started, Purva. Welcome to my show, Spoorthi.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Usually, I start the show from the beginning, and like I ask my guests to introduce from their childhood, education, and all. Now, today, let's break the chain. Let's start from today. Purva as on August 8, 2020. So, how do you describe yourself?
One second. There's a lot of repeat. Okay.
One second. I will also check.
Yeah.
Hello.
Is there another window that's open with the video? Is there another window that's open? Hello?
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Is there any problem?
So I think there's a little bit of lag, so I can hear myself speak about 10 seconds after I speak.
Oh, okay. Wait. Now?
Sure.
Now?
Still happening.
Oh, okay. Let me check. Wait.
I think we're good.
Now? Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure, but we can just go on. I'm just going to maybe like ignore that bit of it, like whatever feedback I'm getting.
Okay. I think it will get sorted.
Yeah, I think that might be best because I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Okay. Yeah, even I checked this.
All right.
One second.
Hopefully. One second. Okay, so while I tell you a little bit more about Purvaa as of August 8th, 2020, I'll also go and get earphones so that the rest of it can be smooth. So basically, I guess as of today, I define myself as a music therapist in terms of my profession. I have been practicing in India for the last 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I work with clients right across the board, right from I think the ages of 4 has been my youngest since I moved back to 90. That has been my oldest so far. And I think above and beyond that, I also call myself a musician and an artist. I would attribute the word creative to the work that I do. But also, in the last 2.5 years, given that I've been building my practice and my organization, I think a business aspect has also come in. So that's a new element.
Okay. So tell me about Maya's universe.
Sure. So I think the when I was in college and I was studying to be a musician as well as a music therapist, I was always very fascinated um, by the name Maya because I was always looking for an artist name. And so the word Maya stood out to me because I found it across different civilizations, different histories, different cultures and languages. And the one that stood out to me the most was the Hebrew definition of Maya, which means child of God. And so I think that was a word that I fell in love with right then. I just didn't know where I'm going to use it or how I'm going to use it. So as I graduated, finished my internship, and then finally made the decision to move back and do my own thing, when I was looking for the name, Maya's Universe was just already there. So that's how that started. I started it in July of 2018. And Maya's Universe today has 2 locations. The main one is in Baswangudi, behind Ganjam Mandapa, so on Bull Temple Road. And the other one is in Akshay Nagar, in Hulimabu. And so I provide services of music therapy itself. I have clients that come to the center. I also have collaborations with various organizations like Fame India, Kadabam Hospitals, Nightingale's Trust in Banaswadi, as well as the Amog Center in BTM. And during the week, I mean, pre-COVID, pre-lockdown, during the week, I would spend one day at each of these institutions and then see clients at the center over the weekends and in the evenings during the week. Above and beyond that, I've also, under the name Maya's Universe, have also ventured into education. So I've been able to create syllabuses for music therapy in St. Xavier's in Mumbai, as well as taught the course at WCC in Chennai. And that has just it's been incredible to meet so many young psychology students who are so interested in wanting to learn more about the expressive arts. And so I really look at it as 2 ways. One is providing the service, but the second one is also advocating for the service and the education aspect of it, making education accessible.
So nice to hear, Purva. Before I go forward, I want to know generally therapy. Therapy means what? Uh, if I have to mean a common man's language. Yeah, please go ahead.
In itself is when you need help with something that is not visible, right? So you can look at therapy multiple ways because there are multiple therapies that are available to you today. The most popular, if you see, are the ones that are available in the hospital, right? So physiotherapy is very popular.
Yeah.
Occupational therapy is also quite popular. So is speech and language therapy. But when you really talk about expressive arts therapy, that is something that's still fairly new. Not that there aren't people that are practicing it or understand it, but if you think about where expressive arts therapy comes from, it comes from the beginning of man. Art became a way for us to express ourselves. It became a way for us to communicate, and it became a way for us to showcase our creativity and to be able to connect something have art that is woven into religion. You have art that's woven into science. You have art that's woven into so many aspects of our life, which is one of the reasons why we call music as a universal language. And so expressive arts therapy, and specifically music therapy, looks at how you can use music or art, the expressive arts, as an intervention to address non-musical goals. So if somebody is struggling with, say, fine motor movement, right, they might not be able to use their fingers to pick up a spoon or to hold a pen, then music therapy can help in that. One of the interventions could be playing the keyboard. Learning how to play the keyboard actually uses all the muscles in your fingers and in your hand. And so picking up different instruments like shakers or maracas also help in that grip that you have. If you're talking about cognition, sequencing is something that children, especially who are on the autism spectrum, have trouble with. And so being able to understand sequences is something that music does very well, right? Because in a piece of music, you have sequences of multiple instruments, you have sequences of the melody itself, you have different parts of a song, you have the chorus and you have the verse. And so various elements of music really affect different parts of your brain. And therefore, when I use music therapy, I'm looking at how I can use it to address 5 goal areas, mainly being physical goals, cognitive goals, so anything to do with the brain processes, emotional goals, so matters of the heart, matters of the mind, socialization goals, so music as a way to bond, finally behavioral goals.
Okay. Um, how did you get to know there is I mean, music can do wonders, and at what age you realized music is also a therapeutic, and how did you do this? How did you search your choose your profession, or how did you search how music can be very good therapy?
Sure, I mean, it definitely goes back to my guru, my music teacher, Dr. Meenakshi Ravi. So she has been my guru since I was 3 or 4 years old. And as a child, I would only learn from her if she would allow me to sit on her lap. So that relationship is a very close one. And when I was about 12 or 13, she also has a PhD in family counseling. So when I was 12 or 13, I saw her begin to use music, begin to use Carnatic music in her sessions, in her therapy sessions. And then when she saw the kind of effects that it had, and she saw that it was much more effective than your regular talk therapy, she started working with children who were differently able. And so in the next 2 years, kind of just looking at how much they changed, looking at how they changed in not just music. I mean, learning music was one aspect of it, but looking at how the quality of their life improved and how they were able to do so many more things, right from academics to socialization to being able to communicate, being able to have a conversation with someone, really made me curious about why it happened. And we all know that music affects us. We know that we listen to music when we're sad, when we're happy. But I really wanted to understand the science behind it. I wanted to understand why it works the way it works. And I think that was pretty much the beginning of that question of why for me. When I got to high school and I graduated from 12th standard, I mean, I was still doing a little bit of soul searching, but my parents wanted me to be in Bangalore. They didn't want me to leave. And so I ended up, joining Mount Carmel and started my first semester over there, but I wasn't happy. And it wasn't because of the college or I had great friends and all of that, but I think somewhere I knew that what I was studying or what I was committing to for the next 3 years was not something that I would want to do as a career, or I just didn't relate to it or connect to it with a passion. And it was then that I started, kind of exploring online and trying to see if there was something out there. And I remember, like, it was late at night, and I typed music therapy for the first time on Google, and the first link that came up was Berklee College of Music. And I think I clicked on that link, and then there was no turning back for me. I don't think I even went through that first search page, and explored other links. I just clicked on that and I said, okay, this is what I want to do and this is where I want to go. And finally, in my second semester in the first year, around Feb, I finally, told my parents and convinced them. And I think within 24 hours, I had gone and like got my TC from Mount Carmel and had already applied to a college in Malaysia, because Berkeley has colleges across the world, and they have the option of doing your basics over there and then transferring to Berkeley, and then being able to specialize or pick your major. So I did all of that within 24 hours. I spent the next couple of months, spending a lot of time with my music teacher, learning as much as I could. Also started learning basics of Western music and the theory of it. And yeah, the next couple of years flew in Malaysia. And when I finally got to Berkeley, I was very fortunate to get there with scholarship too. And so when I got there, I again had to audition and interview to get into the music therapy program. And I think I haven't looked back since that one day when I typed music therapy on Google and the link came up. So I think that changed the path of my life forever.
That's so great. That's so great. Okay, so your musical journey started from Malaysia University.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. When you discontinued your college, how was
Mm-hmm.
your parents' reaction to it? See, because
So
the therapy, music therapy and all that was new at that time. Definitely, it was new to everybody. So, how did they support you?
that's actually quite the story. So before I quit, before I ended up quitting college, like that 24-hour thing, my parents knew that I'd been unhappy in my course. They knew that I wasn't liking it, or it wasn't so much not liking it, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't passionate about what I was studying, which was communication studies, psychology, and literature. And when I was in my first year, that is the time that they made the decision. The college made the decision to make it an exclusive communications course, so an honors course instead of 3 subjects. And that's when I knew that okay, this is not going to work for me, because I don't see myself working in that space at all. And I remember it was a Friday when they announced it in the morning, and then for some reason there was a state holiday that was announced midday. And so after lunch, we were all asked to go back home. And given that I went to high school in Chennai, a lot of my closest friends still lived there at that time. And what I did was I just texted my parents. I don't think I even called them. I think I just texted them. And, I just got a bus and left for Chennai. I said I need a weekend with my friends, so I'm going. And I came back Monday early morning, around 5 in the morning, and I had to be in college by 9. And so I came back and I asked my mother to wake me up in an hour's time, but she didn't. So I ended up waking up only at 9, and I freaked out and I was like, oh my God, I have to go to college. I've already missed my first class. But then she sat me down and said, okay, we know that you're not happy. So what is it that you want to do? What is going to make you happy? And I think that is the greatest gift that my parents gave me, because that entire day I sat down, I figured out National College of Music in Malaysia. I showed it to them. I spoke to them. I found out like all the procedures for audition and interview, and then showed them everything I'd researched on, Berkeley's program for music therapy. And by the end of the day, it was decided that okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to study. And I think it was decided because For them, even though they didn't know what music therapy was or they didn't understand what it would mean as a career option, their trust in me and their trust in how passionate I was when I was talking about it um, was what made them support me. So I am always eternally grateful that I have parents that trusted me at that age. And it's not the first time they've trusted me to make decisions and a lot younger in life too. But I think them knowing that okay, this is what she needs to do and this is her life, and beyond a point, what we can do is support, but we can't tell her how to live her life. Is that approach makes the biggest difference. So I think in terms of it was only once I moved back to India and I started doing workshops, and my mom attended one last year, that she truly understood what music therapy is and how it can help. And today, both my parents, when they talk to their clients, sometimes they end up, especially my dad, ends up talking about me and my work more than his own work. And that is it's such a big deal for me. And just the freedom, the trust, and the love, and support when things weren't going right, and I was having a hard time, because it's not easy for parents to send their daughter across the world to study in a different country, where the culture is so different. But I think I'm just eternally grateful to have them as parents, because of the way they've supported me and continue to support me.
True, true. That's amazing. That's amazing, Purva. You said you learned, I mean, basically, you learned classical music. Then you shifted to Western also. So, was it
Yeah.
difficult for you to learn Western? Because from the beginning, you were trained classical musician. So, was it difficult for you to learn
Yeah.
Western at that point of time?
I think, yeah. So I would always listen to a lot of Western music when I was younger. I think we got internet for the first time when I was in sixth standard, and back then, Yahoo Music was the only way I could listen to English songs. And even when I was younger, one of the first musicals that my mom ever got me to watch was Sound of Music. And so I always did have a fascination for that, because I think somewhere, as much as I learned and performed Carnatic music, because English was a language I could understand, and the songs that you have, your popular music, are about emotions that you feel, or they're about things that you can relate to. And so I think that was my fascination for Western music right from the beginning. But when I did start learning it, it was quite challenging. The first 6 months of vocal training for Western music completely threw me off. In fact, at the end of the first 6 months, I felt like I'm not a singer at all. What am I doing here? Did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? But I think it slowly kind of worked out, and it was only once I got to Berkeley that um, I truly kind of realized who I am as a musician, as a vocalist, because I became a part of the Berkeley Indian Ensemble, where they do a lot of fusion, right? So they take your Indian classical music, they take the music that you've grown up with, and they you also have your Western training, so jazz and funk and hip hop and pop. And so I think the coming together of those two styles really felt like it was a coming together of who I am also. Because yes, this is my training. Carnatic music is something that I will always have a very special place in my heart for. But I just never saw myself as a performer. And I always felt like I wasn't good enough to perform either, because I had so many people that were amazing in their techniques and their skills. But I think when the two came together, I realized that yes, this is something that I can relate to. This is something that speaks to me. And even in music therapy, I realized that it was much more fulfilling for me and meant so much more. when I was in a session as opposed to being on stage. I mean, being on stage is great and it's very exciting, but I think that the 3 years at Berkeley really kind of helped me come into my own as a musician as well as a music therapist.
You are a performer and also a therapist. Which is more challenging when it comes to work, a performance or a therapy?
Honestly, for me, it's performance. I think it's because when I'm in a session, the minute I walk into a session, Purva ceases to exist. Right? It's all about the client. It's all about the interventions that I'm using with them. And even if I play like a chord wrong on my guitar, or I miss a note when I'm singing, or I forget a line, I know that the end goal is not for me to perform perfectly in that session. The end goal for me is to be able to focus on the non-musical goal that I have for the client. The reason why I'm using music in that session, and I mean, there's a small story. The first time I ever, started my practicum in Berkeley, which meant that once a week we would go and we would work with different clients. In my first semester, our topic was special education. So I was at a school where I had a group of 4 children, all between the ages of 7 and 9, who are all visually impaired. And so when the first time I had to play the guitar, I didn't know how to play the guitar. I had just started learning a few months ago, and I was extremely nervous about playing the wrong chord or not playing the chord because I wasn't holding it right. And so my supervisor there, the music therapist, she told the children, she said, this is Purva's first time and she's a little nervous, so can we all be nice to her? So if she messes up, let's not make her feel bad about it. And immediately one of the small boys that was sitting there, he said, don't worry, Purva, even if you play the wrong notes, we're still going to love you.
Oh, so sweet.
And that just it meant so much to me, and it really it sedimented, or it cemented the idea of what music therapy is all about. It's not about performance, it's not about being perfect, it's not about saying that, oh yes, this is the best version of the song that I've sung, but it's about how am I using this, or how am I using my abilities to its best to be able to make a difference. So yeah, when I walk into a session, I'm completely myself. I'm completely comfortable with or without my guitar. But I think when it comes to performance, a lot of the times I do have a little bit of anxiety about, making sure that I don't miss a note, making sure that I'm singing all the right notes in the right key, that I don't forget a line or a lyric. So yeah, I definitely find performance a lot harder than music therapy.
True, true. But you have shared a stage with such a legendary musicians. See, listening to them is like it's amazing. We feel that, but you shared such a great stage with them. So how about how did it happen? You shared with
I think
Rahman.
it all happened through the Berkeley Indian Ensemble. I was so grateful to be a part of that group, to get the kind of opportunity like performing with Rahman, performing with Vijay Prakash, Shankar Mahadevan, as well as Raghu Dikshit. And it was an incredible performance, and it was also an incredible journey just because of how much we would rehearse. At that point, I think we would rehearse so much that by the time we actually got on stage for the show, there was no doubt that, okay, what if I forget something, because that's how many times we would have done it, that it would have become muscle memory for me. And so I think I really, really enjoyed being on stage with them. And, I know that it was a big moment of pride for my family, for my friends, watching all those videos. And even today, I have people, who reach out to me for music therapy sessions and then say, oh, like, are you in those videos? And I say, yeah. But I think what I realized was that while it was great to perform with them, I felt like I needed something more. You know, that high was there during the performance. It was there when we were taking photos backstage after the show got over. It was there when I would go out for dinner with, you know, the entire gang after that. And it was a great feeling of achievement and accomplishment. But the next morning I would wake up and say, okay, now what? You know, and I think that feeling hit me quite hard after the first big show that I did, which was with A.R. Rahman. And this was at his honorary doctorate that he received from Berkeley in 2014. And I woke up the next day. I think I must have slept through the day, and my mom was in Boston at that time, so she woke me up, you know, fed me curd rice, and I kept going back to sleep. And so I just felt such a sense of like anticlimax at the once the show was done, and I kept asking myself, okay, but now what? Like, it should have inspired me to want to do something more, or to want to, you know, become a bigger performer. Or And I always wanted to be a Bollywood playback singer. You know, as a singer, I always imagined myself doing that. But then I just said, but now what? Okay, fine, I sing a song, but then it's done. Like, there is, what is it that's lasting after that performance? And so I think that's when I realized, especially during my internship at a place to be, within the first week of doing music therapy full time, that's when I realized that this is my thing. This is how I want to use music. This is how I want to make a difference. And this is what is giving me a sense of fulfillment that being on stage I never felt. And I still want to reach out and connect with these people. I want to, you know, be able to connect with Rahman. I want to be able to connect with all of the musicians and composers in the industry. But today I want to be able to connect with them as a music therapist to say, what can we do more? How can we make education accessible? How can we talk about music therapy? How can we make it something that becomes a household thing in India, where anybody that talks about music therapy, you know what music therapy is? Because right now, you know, half the battle of being a music therapist is telling people what music therapy is. So that is my dream. My dream is to go back and connect with the entertainment industry, but do it as a music therapist this time.
It's so great to listen to your story, Purva, because you are having such a reputed job there in US, and you are doing good. Still, you left all of a sudden. You decided to leave the job, and then how did it happen? What made you to come back to India and start your studio here, Maya's University?
Well, I think again, you know, it was a very interesting journey, very similar to what happened, you know, back when I was 18 and I made the choice to leave, because it was pretty much an overnight decision. And I think what happened was, up till that point, right from the time I started schooling, it was always, you know, study really hard in school so you can get into a good, like, you know, +1, +2 institution. Then study really hard there so you can get into a good college. Then
Correct.
study really hard in college so you get a good
Get
internship. And then do really well in your internship so you can get a job. And I did all of that one after the other without a break. And then when I finally did start my job, I loved my clients. I loved the people that I was working with, but somewhere I wasn't fulfilled. I was also, you know, I connected to an Indian community. So for my internship, I moved to Virginia. I moved to a small town over there called Middleburg, where I was working at an expressive arts therapy organization called A Place to Be. And for the longest time, I was the only person of color in that town. You know, everybody there, and they were all extremely sweet and extremely loving and generous, and I'm so grateful for the kind of experiences I had there. But I think I was also beginning to kind of miss being connected to my own culture. So I started teaching music in an Indian music school, which was about 45 minutes away from where I lived. And over there, around November, December, I think November actually, beginning of November, she asked me, the lady who was there asked me if I would be interested in starting a music therapy program at her school. And it was a great opportunity. And at the same time, I realized that maybe my time at a place to be was also coming to an end. And I think when I really sat down to think about it, I said, it's such a great opportunity to be able to start my own program and to be able to run it and build it, especially for the Indian community. I said, do I want to do it for an Indian community here that already has access to music therapy? Or do I want to do it back in India where you don't have access to music therapy yet? And the answer was, and I said, okay, if I'm going to start a music therapy program, then I'm going to start it, but I'm going to start it back home. I'm going to do it back where there are so many people that need it, that can benefit from it, and also help students and like professionals who are interested in learning more about it have access to it. And so I remember calling my parents. I was anyway supposed to come back in December for a holiday. I'd already booked my tickets. But I called them and I said, okay, listen, what if I come back and then just stay? What if I didn't, go back to the States? And they were more than happy.
Yeah.
My dad kept saying that, I didn't want to say it to you because I don't want you to feel like you have to come back just for me. But I'm so glad that you're coming back. And I mean, honestly, your egg and cheese sandwiches in the morning are great, Rekha, but nothing compares to a masala dosa and a filter coffee. And so I just really wanted to come back
That's so nice.
and connect with the culture and really make a difference the way I can, the way that I know or knew back then that I could over here.
Very nice, very nice, very inspiring, Purva. See, coming back to therapy, when you meet a new client, what are the process?
I think there's a little bit of a lag.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Sorry, Rekha, I lost you.
Now,
I lost you for a bit. Can you just
hear me
repeat
now?
your question?
Yeah, coming back to therapy, how how the process starts. See, a client, what are the procedure? How do you interact
Hello?
with them? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, now, Purva? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Coming back to the therapy part. So, when you meet a new client, how do you interact with them to understand what all procedure you follow to get to know what is required, what therapy is required to them?
Sure. So, my first initial assessment is always looking at the 5 areas, right? So I look at physical goals, emotional goals, cognitive goals, socialization goals, and behavioral goals. So before I even meet a client for the first time, chances are I end up, if it's in an organization, then I end up talking to the staff. I end up understanding the population, the diagnosis that they have, and then I kind of go in for an individual assessment. If it's with somebody that's coming to the center itself, then I usually end up talking to the parent or the sibling or the caregiver, whoever it is that reaches out, and understand their situation a bit better, and kind of understand what their base level of functioning is. So in my first session, which is my assessment session, I go through different things based on what they've shared. So if it's somebody that is able to speak, that's able to have a conversation, then I talk to them, I ask them what kind of music they like. I tell them a little bit about how, music therapy works and how music affects your brain so that they're also aware of it. But if it's a client that doesn't have that kind of cognitive awareness, then I set up different instruments for them to play play. Maybe, pick up a song for kids, usually like different nursery rhymes or a really popular, Bollywood song or Kannada song, um, depending on the language they speak also. So based on my first session with them and the information that I've got from the organization or from the family, I then go ahead to say, okay, like the first three goals, right? So what are the first three goals that I'm going to be focusing on when it comes to this client or this group? And so what I also end up doing is, while the assessment session, it's called the assessment session, the first 4 to 5 sessions is also me getting to know the client better and the client getting to know me better, right? Because a lot of the times, especially if you have cognitive challenges, or you're somebody who's shy, chances are you're not going to open up the first time you meet someone. And so basing my goals just off of that first session usually doesn't work all the time. I will end up realizing that something that they weren't able to do in their first session, they're doing so well in the third session, because by then they're familiar, they're not as shy anymore. So within the first month, I develop a set of goals, and then as and when those goals they achieve those goals, and they accomplish what is needed for that goal, then I move on to the next goal. So it's really important to be able to prioritize goals, right? So if you look at a child who has autism, a lot of the times they are someone that is very, like they get stimulated very easily by sounds in the environment, or by light in the environment, and that usually ends up causing them to respond in a certain way, right? So they might rock back and forth, they might scream, they might even sometimes put themselves in danger. They might self-harm, or they might, harm people around them. So a lot of the times you end up focusing on the behavior itself. So I've had parents who told me, I want him to stop screaming. I want him to stop, hitting people. I want her to stop biting herself. But the what I say is, yes, these are things that we need to stop. But if we're just going to address that behavior and not what's causing the behavior, then it's not going to stop. Right? You can teach them, okay, don't do this, don't do this. But if you don't address what is actually triggering that behavior, then it's not going to be a long lasting change. So I always look at, okay, what is it that's triggering the behavior, which a lot of the times could be a cognitive issue, right? Or it could be a physical issue. Like I had a client who used to be like bound, because he had a lot of impulse control issues, and he anytime anyone would go close to him, he would reach and grab or hit, and or even kick sometimes, right? And as a 21-year-old male, you have a lot of power to be able to, or strength to be able to do that. And so he would constantly be bound because people around him were scared. But it was only once I started working with him, I realized that his frustration, which is why he's reaching out and grabbing and hitting, a part of it, yes, is impulse impulse control, but a bigger part of it is because he's so frustrated that they don't talk to him, they don't communicate with him, and they're constantly keeping him tight. So he can't speak, he doesn't have verbal communication, but he can understand everything that you're saying to him very well. He's just not able to tell you that I understand. So if you're talking to a 21-year-old like a 5-year-old, or if you're not even talking to him, you're just making decisions for him, anybody will get annoyed, And so once we started talking, and once we started, like, I kept telling them, I said, let him be in the wheelchair. You can, have the body strap for him for his impulse control, but let his hands be free. And at the end of 6 months, someone that the minute you would be anywhere close to him, someone who would grab or hit or pinch, ended up being able to play the guitar with me holding it for him, which shows so much of like impulse control, so much improvement in him just being able to control that impulse to reach out and hit. And so I think understanding the trigger is so much more important in music therapy than understanding just the behavior, addressing just the behavior or the socialization that's coming from it. And the same thing goes for mental health too. And mental health is something that, even neurotypical people understand and experience. And a lot of the times we are so focused on the diagnosis or the label that comes along with words like depression and anxiety and panic attack and all of that, that we don't actually take the time to understand what it is that is causing it, what is the trigger that's causing it, as opposed to treating just the symptoms of it. So yes.
It's so important to understand family background, friends, parents, how do they react, and their family background. Those things are really.
I will say, Rekha, a lot of the times it's so much more important to educate the family and the people that are around the client than it is for the client itself. Yeah.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you address after assessment, so you go ahead
Mm-hmm.
about the therapy. I mean, what is required and all. So, most of the times, as you said, educating parents is important. How they react to you when you when you counsel them, because handling parents is, I know, I understand.
I think I've been blessed to have parents that are at least coming in with an open mind. And I think music therapy is something that is still so new. So parents already have a certain level of like open mindedness when they come to you, right? And it's also something, given that it's something very new, it's also something that they don't know a lot about, like speech therapy or physiotherapy, which is more popular. And so I've been blessed so far with parents that have been open to understanding better, that have been open to a discussion. And I make sure that, I kind of check in with the parents once in a couple of months, talk to them, ask them how, their children or whoever it is that I'm seeing is doing at home. And I think that, when you want any sort of therapy to work, it has to be a community, right? So if I'm doing something for 30 minutes once a week,
Mhm.
unless and until the parents also continue doing that or changing the environment at home in order to support the changes that I'm bringing in a session, the
Mhm.
generalization is not going to happen, right? I can sit and counsel as much as I want. I can sit and work with them. I can work on behavioral skills. I can work on triggers. I can do all of that in my session. But if those changes don't happen in the environment, then it's not going to be a long lasting change for them.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely I make sure that I keep my parents as involved as possible. I really enjoy talking to them about the neuroscience of music, so telling them how something that I'm doing with their child or their family member is actually affecting them in terms of change. And I also make sure that I have a lot of mothers that will say, this is what he did, you tell him to do this, you tell him not to do this, or ask him to behave in school. And I say, listen, if I do that, then he's not going to open up to me, he's not going to trust me, and I'm just going to become another authority figure. And that's not what being a therapist is. Being a therapist is not somebody that gives advice or that says, okay, this is right and this is wrong. Being a therapist is somebody that who guides the client in order to discover themselves better, and in order for them to bring about those changes for themselves. And so I think helping parents understand that, and telling them that, helping them understand that, listen, I'm not a teacher for your child, right? I can't be like, oh, you did this, I'm going to punish you. And even yesterday, I was talking to a client who is on the autism spectrum and who's 34 years old.
Mhm.
And he is someone that's on the higher functioning end, and he was supposed to do an exercise that I'd given him, and he didn't do it, and he lied about it to me. But then, when I asked him again, he ended up saying, okay, no, I'm so sorry, I lied to you. Okay, you give me whatever punishment you want.
Oh.
And so just to be able to like tell him that, this is not about punishment or reward, right? I'm not going to punish you. I'm not here to tell you that, oh, you're a bad person, or oh, you lied, like that's such a bad quality. I'm just here to see how I can help you the best. So if you didn't do the exercise, maybe it's because it didn't work for you, or you weren't motivated enough to do that, and that's completely okay. Then now that I know that it's not working, let's work towards finding something else that you enjoy doing or that will motivate you to do it. And it was a concept that was very difficult for him to understand, because that's what he's been exposed to. At 34, if he's still saying, okay, what is my punishment, it means that is the kind of community that we grow up in, right? Where you do something wrong, you are labeled, and then you are punished for it. So I think that is such an important thing to address, especially with differently abled children and adults who don't necessarily understand why they do something the way they're doing it, or don't understand why it's being called wrong. We as neurotypical individuals have built a world for them that is not friendly, right? We've created a world for them where we haven't given them the opportunity to be who they are or to do something differently. We look at intelligence through the marks that you get in your exams. We don't look at it in any other way, or we look at your worth based on how much money you're earning or how good you are, what your extracurriculars are. But to really be able to say, can we live and let live? Can we make space in our society for those that are differently abled and give them their own voice? Let's stop. I call this the Ayo Papa syndrome. Let's stop saying Ayo Papa, because they're not Ayo Papa. They're just different from you and me. They don't need your sympathy. They don't need your pity. What they need is for you to allow them to live their life and let them be who they are. So what if it takes them 1 hour to eat instead of 10 minutes? So what if they're not making eye contact with you? So what if they're not speaking? So what if they choose to communicate through actions? It's completely fine.
Fine.
It's us that needs to change our mindset to say that,
True.
somebody is different. It doesn't make them any less. It just makes them different.
True. Acceptance. First thing is acceptance. And tagging. I keep hearing, see, as a mother, I understand because many a times we just end up tagging them, no, not fit for this, and you're not up to the mark or something. So we tend to compare. We tend to compare with the other children. So such a good insight, Purva. Such a good insight. See, we need to change first. We need to change. Not that,
Absolutely.
yeah, correct. Okay. See, when you start counseling or your therapy and all, say if they improve and go back to when they get back to their work or school back, do they need to follow up? Because when they get back to the normal situation, um, how did it work for them? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's just a backlash. So I thought you were still speaking. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I think, definitely I've had clients who have come in for short periods of time where they've been able to achieve their goals because of their abilities, and then they've been able to go back and adjust. At the same time, there are some clients with whom they need a longer time, right? So depending on their ability, depending on their cognitive abilities, they need a little bit more time working on their goals. And so if you really see music therapy, the way it works is you always keep accelerating goals. So I've had a client now for 2 years, and when we first started out, for her, the biggest goal was to be able to be okay in a new situation, right? Be open, or to not have a breakdown when she was in a new setting or met somebody new. And today, that is a goal that she's achieved. We've also achieved the goals of understanding emotions, being able to express emotions, given that she's on the autism spectrum. And today, we're working on much more nuanced goals. So we're working on speech, we're working on building receptive speech. So now it's no longer a question of, oh, if there's somebody somebody there that's new, is she going to break down? But today we're talking about, okay, when she meets somebody new, then how can we develop the skills for her to have conversations with them, or to be able to answer questions that they're asking. So it really is more goal building method that we look at, but at the same time, like I said, the changing the environment that they're going back to makes the biggest difference, because a lot of them don't have control over their environment. Usually their families that end up controlling the environment, or in an organization setting, then the change has to come from the organization, right, from the staff members, the way they talk to them. And so I think so far, in terms of follow up and support, I have had, clients that I've worked with for a short while that have reached out and checked in. Sometimes I reach out and check in and just see how they're doing. And at any given point, if they do feel the need to come back, then they have come back. But a lot of the times they end up moving on to other therapy has kind of played its role in that certain goal area, and then it's just not as effective as maybe another form of therapy could be. So yeah.
True. The environment also plays a very important role. How you, at home, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your insight, and it's going to help a lot many people here, Purva, because and yeah, I want to say this. I mean, many people are not aware. Purva is one of the certified music therapist in India. Only one music therapist who is certified here. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I hope that changes as soon as possible. I want as many people certified. Yeah.
True, true, true. And now it's a very good message to youngsters, new musicians, coming up musicians. So they can choose. They know how it works now, and
Very true.
definitely it's needed here.
Absolutely.
So now people are asking for your performance now.
Okay, so I know that you told me this yesterday,
Yeah.
and I thought about what I wanted to sing, and I think, given the context and just the story of my life, I feel like this song is very apt. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn down the volume on my phone so I don't hear the lag, and then I'll turn it up once I'm done.
That's it. That's it.
अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें न वो समझ सके न हम। अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें हैं कौन सी, न वो समझ सके न हम। ये रोशनी के साथ क्यों धुआं उठा चिराग से, ये रोशनी के साथ धुआं उठा चिराग से, ये ख्वाब देखती हूँ मैं कि जग पड़ी हूँ, अजीब दास्तां है, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ, ये मंजिलें हैं कौन, न वो समझ सके न हम। Thank you so much, Rekha.
So wonderful, wonderful. Okay, before we end the session, um, let me ask you. I have 5 questions, Purva. Think it's a rapid fire question. I just say these words. You have to answer in one word. Okay. Maya's universe.
My world.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Sampath.
My life.
Okay. Barclays University.
Experience.
So, and your Guru Meenakshi, Dr. Meenakshi Ravi.
My
Sorry.
my mother.
Oh, okay. And last but not the least, Sai Karthik.
My best friend.
Congratulations, congratulations once again. Uh, and such a lovely evening listening to you. It's so much inspiring. And I would like to thank first your guru for her inspiring work. Then secondly, definitely your parents, Mr. Sampath and Kalpana ma'am, for love and support and trust. Basically, trusting you and supporting till here. And definitely thanks to you for being here. I know Saturday is a working day. You rescheduled all your appointments and you said okay to me, and you are here and you shared such a good information, which is really going to help others also. And thanks again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for what's going on in the world. I think uh, uh, thank you so much to be here. I met you 2 years ago when we were volunteering at Peace together, and I'm so glad to get to connect this week too. So it was my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
And sorry, actually, now I'm getting a question from people. Um, can I read?
Sure.
So, how do you combine music and counseling? Is it according to the client's requirement? Veena is asking.
So it's not so much about combining and counseling as much as it is about using music as the key or as the way for the. So there are some clients who prefer to speak, so we might speak. So there are some clients who are good with it. So with them, we sometimes end up using that involve either writing or involve like like songwriting is something that works great for clients who enjoy that. So counseling really is more where I actually sit down and talk to them I also do have a few clients that I see as a counselor where it's music. But in music therapy, it is music as the way of communication.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay then. Yeah. Bye. Bye. And I wish you for all your future endeavors. And yeah, let you achieve. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.